Hi, you ever wanted to make your own VST instrument or plugin? Well, now you can. I'm Sean Darling here at Red Spectre Studios, and I'm going to show you how to do that pretty easily here in HISE. Let's check it out. All right, here we are in HISE, and the first thing you're going to see right here is our Create New Project. Now, right here, we want to enter a name. I'm just going to put in New Tutorial Instrument. You can use this as your default location or not. Folder of Red Spectre VSTs that I create. And we're just going to use the empty project template. Now you can use a few different things here, but let's just go ahead and keep this simple. We're going to click create. Now what we're going to see here in HISE, first thing, taking up most of the screen, this is going to be where we're going to design our interface. You'll see some things here. This little pencil allows us to edit that or not. Some of these will come into play in a while, but that's the main one we're going to deal with. Over here to the right is your property editor. So when we create something in the interface, the properties for that will come up here. And over to this side is going to be our component list of all the things that we're going to be using on our interface. They will go in an order, and the top one will not be the top layer. It will be the most far away from this layer. So they have to think about this in reverse. I'm not sure why they do it this way, but the top is the farthest away and the bottom is the closest layer to us. Reverse of what Photoshop is usually like. So then over here is our code editor. If we want to make any changes, if we know coding, which we're not going to use coding here, we may change or probably will change this number right here that is going to determine the height and width of our plugin. But that's going to be pretty much it. If anything stalls out, we can come down here and press this compile button, and that will just sort of reprocess the code again in case something sticks or stalls out. Now, another important part over here is going to be this master chain. Normally, it may be on or off if this pencil to the left here, which is a little bit off my screen, is not clicked and it looks like so, you're only going to be able to see when clicking on things that and only this tree right here in a very limited form. Also, so you understand, when you click this little icon, which is lit right now, it will open up this interface designer if it isn't. But if your little pencil here is not clicked, we need to click it. It will allow us to edit this module tree. So when I click it here, you can see more things open up. And they have these pluses next to them, which allow us to add things to this. So we can add directly to the master chain, the MIDI processor. We can get rid of the interface by clicking here, which we don't want to do. We can add to this gain modulation. This will have things in it like our envelopes, things like that, and our effects. What we're going to do in this lesson or this example, we're going to create, instead of a synth, we're going to create a sampler, probably just a single sampler. You can create 3 or 4 if you want to and have them all play together or however you want. But in this instance, we're going to create one sampler. I'm going to show you guys how to do all the things that are necessary to bring in samples and map them across the piano keyboard and to affect them, set up looping points and stuff, and then make all of our interface for this particular instrument. So let's check that out. All right, so what we're going to do here in the master chain is what we're going to need first off is a sampler, because right now we just have the thing that's going to process any MIDI. The allowing of us, these things will allow us to add things like gain modulation and effects units, but we need something to actually make the sound. So what we're going to do is go up to this master chain, and you can see right over here there's a plus sign right here. This allows us to add a new sound generator to the chain. We click that plus and a list comes up. Now, if you watch the other tutorial on making a synth in HISE, you would come down here and grab stuff like the wave table synthesizer or a sine wave generator, or I think what we used in that one was a waveform generator. Here, though, we're going to come up here and create a sampler right here about the middle of the list. One click and we will have a sampler added to our chain here, and a lot of other things will pop up. Over here now, you can notice that our interface designer is gone. Don't worry, we can bring that back anytime. Remember, by clicking right here at interface, you just click this little pop out here and it reopens that space. When we want to work on the sampler and within it, we click on its little pop out, and now we have this setup. So first thing here in the sampler, and you can move your windows around. I'm just going to pull these over. Don't worry about this script watch stuff here. It's not necessary right now. We're going to add some sounds here. And what we're going to do is see the waveform of those sounds in this top window. And right down here, we're going to see where our samples are going to be dropped in relation to the keys. All of your controls and everything for when it starts and ends and loops and stuff will be right down here. Right now we have the looping enable loop range selected, but these are just different ways that you can visualize certain parts. This is the most common. This will allow it to have zero crossing, meaning the waveform will only be cut or finished when it is actually in crossing over the 0 point. Keeps it from making pop sounds mostly. There will be some other things we'll use like this here, normalizing. We do want this selected when we bring in a sample. Well, generally, not all the time. That way makes it the loudest it can be, and we can get a better even sound across all the samples that are mapped across the keyboard. And then this enables our looping for a selection, so we can adjust all the starting and end points and the fade outs and all of that kind of stuff for the looping. All right, so this is a folder of samples for my dream synth that I created, but we're going to just move this aside for now. And I'm going to just click and drag a sample of something into our mapping area here. Now you can make one sound and stretch it across the entire keyboard, or multiple sounds and stretch those across to keep them from kind of stretching and sounding badly. Before we start that though, let's make sure we go here into File, and we come down to our settings. Here's the name of our instrument. And what I want to do is make sure in my audio and MIDI right over here that we come down and select, make sure any keyboards you have that you want to use this with that can play sound are selected. That way, when we hit our keyboard, that it'll actually recognize it. So you just, apply your MIDI keyboard if you have one here. So let's go ahead and save. Now we're going to take a sample, and I'm just going to grab, let's say this C0. We're going to just drag it over to wherever we think C0 may or may not be. This will give us a choice of letting it detect it, or if we want to let it just drop it at the drop point. I'm going to leave this selected on drop point and say OK. And now when I hit this C0 on my keyboard, we get that note playing. You can see this green light jumping up and down. That's because I'm hitting it really quietly. It's coming down here. If I hit it harder and harder, it'll get farther and farther up because it is velocity sensitive. Now what I'm going to do is place that one on C0. We're going to grab the next one and place it on the G above that. Now when I play that and you select drop point, when I play that G, it's going to play that there. The next C up, which is going to be here, drop point, yes. And we're going to go to G1, which is the next G up, and say yes. And then on the C2, which is going to be, I suppose, here, the drop point. And we're going to go to the next G and say OK. And the next we're going to go to the next C3 here and drop it there and say OK. and we're going to go to the next G, and so on. And the reason why I'm using these C's and G's is because that's how I collected them. Uh, I used Bitwig Studio and created sounds and then saved off those particular notes. You can have any notes you want as long as wherever you put it on the keyboard matches the note you want it to have. Now, with these, there are no notes in between, though, you see, just the ones that are the C's and the G's. So what I'll do is I'll start with the lowest note here, the lowest C, and you can come right down here and decide what the lowest key for this particular note is going to be. And what it'll do when you start hitting the minus, it'll start stretching that out down your keyboard. That's as far as we need to go. I don't want to go with the high key, only because if you do that, which you can, it'll start to sound like it's stretching the note up. It sounds less like it's stretching if you stretch it downward. It's a pretty general thing that a lot of people do already know and believe. So next is going to be this one. We're just going to take it and adjust its low key as well until it reaches right here on the next one. So now you'll have, okay, the next one, we'll click it, set its low key the same way. The next one, the same thing, and so on. And this one we can afford, if we wanted to go higher, to go ahead and go to high key and hit the plus and stretch it in the other direction. You're not really going to be able to hear the major stretch with that note that high up. So here's the sound of it right now. Now, if you look, when I click on each one of these sections here, this up here, the view in the top corresponds to each one of these particular waveforms. So the ones that take up those keys, those, and so forth. And you can see they're kind of different volumes. Definitely between this one and the next one, they're kind of different size, which means they have a little bit different volumes. So what I'm going to do is, just to maximize that out, is click on the first one and come up here to our normalize button and click normalize. Go to the next one, click normalize. And these will make them all as loud as they can be, given how their particular waveforms are shaped and how loud they already are. Some of them might even be too loud. And so we can come in and, of course, turn some of that down. So if we're on this one and it feels too loud, we can hit the volume right here and just drag it to kind of get, back to a better place. And then if you want to drag it back up, you can, just to make it more of what you think that should be. You can also hit the plus and minuses here. So the next one, normalize. You can even minus it slightly. The next one, I will minus slightly. It's a bit large. This one I will normalize, and so on, until you get this to be pretty much similar across the board what loudnesses you want all these to have. This one is obviously very loud, so I'm just going to drop it down a little bit and test it. So now those sound very even together. So we'll go to the next one. Those seem okay. And then the last one will need a little bit of normalizing, and everything should be good. Okay, so now when you hold down a note, you want that note to play. You can see this little line that flows along it, showing us where it is. But when it gets to the end, it stops. If you want to hold this note out for 20 minutes or even for 20 seconds, you're going to need to be able to make this loop over and over at a certain point within. So I like to start my loop somewhere, toward the about 2/3 in, and then let it loop around and around and around. And when it's done, we have another thing we can select and set called a release, and that lets it play the rest of the way out when you lift your key up. So what we're going to do is make sure we go here to this looping for selection, and you can see immediately it turns blue, and there's a couple of flags here. This is the in and out point for your loop. You can click anywhere to get this intro flag to where you want it to be. The loop end, typically you can't drag and click that. So I like just to take this and minus it over, or to click it and drag it over until it gets to a point where I know that loop can happen. Now, if I was to click and hold a key now, the line will come over, it'll hit that and start looping between those 2 points. But you can hear that little break or that little click. You can get rid of that by turning up our fade, and you'll see this little yellow, very, very faint yellow. I hope you guys can see that sort of triangle, like an angled line kick out there. And it will basically tell you how quickly that's going to fade back in from this point and then be able to loop still. So we'll check that out from the beginning. And if it's still popping, just kind of come in here and spread it out a little more. And that's not too bad. Now, when you lift up, if you have an ADSR or something like with a release on it, you're going to want to enable this release start. And if you move it forward, you can see that purple triangle here, this purple section. It will move throughout until you get to a point where you want that release to trigger. I'm just going to move this up to about, I don't know, somewhere here. And then the fade will be not how long the release lasts, but from where it's triggered, where it fades from your loop into the rest of the note. So basically, it won't sound like it fades here because there isn't a release. But when there is an ADSR and it is a release, it will trigger and kick into where this starts and fades into the remainder of your sound. You can put this all the way at the end, wherever you like. So once that is done for this one, we just need to go through and do this for every other piece of these samples, every other section, or if you have more than one. If this was the only one you had, great, you're done with setting up the looping. I'll do one more, and then we'll just speed through the rest of it. So we need to enable looping, set the loop start, set the loop end, and set the release. And usually you can do this part pretty quickly. And then once you have those, I usually kick my fade back just a little bit like that and test it. All right. Sometimes it's not perfect and sometimes it is, and you get the best version of it that you can. So now that we have all of these samples chopped and looped correctly, now we can play this as an actual instrument. Knowing that all the samples will continue to play. So if we wanted to go, they will continue to loop. And some of those loop points might need to change. This one in particular, we're looping down here, which in all honesty, I think I'd rather loop it in a section that is more tonal. Much better. Let's go ahead now and move on. Once we have those, we can come right back up here to our interface designer and know that that is in there inside the sampler. Now, you want to be able to save this map, though, this sample map. So back in the sampler again, we'll go back to this pop out. Right down here, you have this row of buttons, and this right now just says select sample map. We have not saved it as anything. So I'm going to call this like, I don't know, ice chimes. So we're going to come over here to this save button, click it, and now we can come in here wherever we want this new instrument sample maps to be. This is the default place if you were in my folder. And I'm just going to call this ice chimes. And now you have this saved as one of your presets in your preset dropdown here. We'll get into saving this as a monolith format later, which that will protect it from other people if you sell this plugin from breaking in there and using your samples or changing them around in ways you don't want. So now if we wanted to make another one, we would just come right over here to this icon and say create new sample map. And when we click it, it asks if we want to create one. It'll discard the current one. By saying OK, it doesn't get rid of your other one. It just makes a new one in place of the one you're looking at. So you can click OK. And if let's say we just had some new sounds, I'm just going to find another set of sounds here. Just something like flute, a sample here. Let's just use this G3, it says. Stick it right here. We'll put it here at the drop point. We'll just say OK. And let's just hide this for now. You can hear when I click the key, it doesn't start right away. It's because there's a delay in the recording. So what we need to do is click on that sample. It will come up and you see the space right here in the beginning. That shows that empty space. If I were to play right now, you see it takes some time for you to get here before it actually starts playing the note. To fix this is click here on this P. This is the sample range editing, and we can click right here. And we know now that when we play, it will start that exact moment. All right, now we know that we can also come in here and set our loops. So if we click on L, turn on the looping option here, we can now say loop start is going to happen somewhere around the middle. And the loop end is going to be happening somewhere that can loop. And then the loop fade just be enough to get us from this point back into the loop over and over again. So let's try that. Sounds like our start is not in the right place. So once again, we'll come back over here to this P and kind of find a new position for it. There we go. And the loop is working perfectly. The release start now, we can just pull in, drop it anywhere out here. And let's go ahead and normalize by clicking our normalize button, which make this the loudest it can be without peaking out. We have a nice flute note. It loops, and then we let it go. It won't loop, it won't release out because we don't have a envelope on it yet. So we have just one note here, and this is what I was going to say about the stretching. So let's go ahead and select our low key here. Right now it's a G2. Let's go ahead and just minus that down until we have a full range of a keyboard. There we go. And then the high key, we're going to stretch this way. Now this will start to sound funny here though. It's not horrible. I can live with it, but a lot of people, you'll notice that it doesn't sound 100% real. And the way you do that is to use real samples that are taken of various notes in various ranges, and then stretch those lightly across the keyboard, because instruments played at a higher, faster volume or higher notes require different breathing, all kinds of stuff, or even harder plucks, depending upon the instrument. And that will definitely change the sound for all the notes that are hit higher up, because they might be at a stronger velocity in general or in some way. But for this one, this will work fine. So now we have this flute. It's been normalized, it's been looped. All we have to do is come here to save it, and we're going to call this, and you can see our other one, Ice Chimes, is still in here. We're going to call this Weird Flute, because it is kind of weird. All right, and I am going to say save. Now what's cool is right over here in that drop down, we can click it now, and you'll have both of your new sample maps in there. And that's how we'll refer to them, sample maps. They are patches essentially of your sample, but they're sample maps. You make a new one, you just click here again, start the process again. The way you can save these though, to where once you're done, no one can come back here and steal them or whatever and reuse them. If you are putting out an instrument for sale, and you want those things locked in, is you'll come here to this little icon here, and this will convert your sample maps to the monolith format, which is like a secure format that people cannot get in there and copy and use your samples. They're locked to this instrument. So we'll leave that alone for now, but all you have to do is click that and it just automatically saves them. I'm going to come back over here to this interface button and click there to jump back into our interface mode. We need a way to go from flute to this the other ice chime setting, but we have no way of doing that because there's nothing on our interface. Well, let me show you something. Up here in this top bar, it's this little house. If you click on it, this shows us what our plugin will look like when it's done via the interface. If we click on it, there's nothing. We have no controls, so we have to come up with a way to allow someone to switch this. So we'll just close that up, come back over here, and we need to add a drop down basically. So what we're going to do is right click, and we have all these different settings or selections for things we can create. And what we're going to do is create a combo box. That'll be the first way I'll show you how to actually create presets. So we'll click on add combo box. This is just this ugly little box, and everything can be changed later, don't worry. And it adds it to our interface here. The second we click on it though, and make sure your pencil is green, because if it's not, you can't edit any of this. Once this is clicked on, all of this information comes up on the right side. The name of the combo box, the text that is shown, if there is text for it, and everything else. Over here on the left, though, where our component list is, since we added something here, we now get it as a component. The name of it's going to be here too. The reason why I mentioned that is it's really easy to get lost once you have hundreds of components in here. The easiest way to do this is to name this appropriately. Combo box 1, you'll never know what that is. So what I'm going to call this is PRST, like preset. I'm going to do an underscore CB. This will be preset combo box. Press enter. It now changes over in your component list as well. We know it's a combo box as we put CB. So in coming down here, we can change the text, but we don't need to. It's gonna go away here in a second anyway. We can put tooltips, things like that, but we want this right now to be a drop down to show all of our sample maps. So what we're going to do first is come down here And with a combo box, we'll be able to get this list of items. Now this you want to write in here perfectly the same as the way you named these before. If you don't know what those names are and you can't find it here, go back to your sampler. With these right here, you can check weird flute, probably spelled wrong. Drop that down. Ice chimes also is here. So ice chimes and weird flute. And we can type those in that order right here. So if you click in this area, just go ice chimes, press enter. Give you IERDFLUTE, and that will be our two drop-down names. Let's find out if this works. So with that, like so, you can see now the one is popping up here. We're going to go into our pencil and click it to where we're now in the interface, and we're going to see that we click it and drop down, we get both of these. Ice chimes sure sounds like the flute though. We need to be able to tell this that it needs to be able to switch. Okay, so I said we aren't going to do any programming. No coding, but we are, just a little bit. I just want to show you guys how this works. We need to be able to give this some code to tell it, use these names, and when you drop this down, change the sample maps. It's very easy. We need to add some code here into our code editor. I can teach you every little thing that there is to know about this code, but I really don't want to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to include this code in the video description that you can copy from there and paste into your code editor. So what you will need to do, and it's very important that all the names are exactly the same as what you have in the code editor and everywhere else. So I'm just going to paste this into here. You want to make sure that it's below all of this interface stuff up here. Just hit enter a couple of times. And when you can click on Control V to paste this in, you click Control V and paste that in. It looks like a giant mess, I realize. I'm going to move these things over just a little bit so you can see what's going on. Don't worry about what the code is right now. This is your interface. You know, it's 600 by 600. We'll change that. You can change these numbers at any time. Just be careful. Make sure they always have the commas. Make sure all your lines that have to kind of do some processing, like the enter button hits it, you know, that's what this represents, like you press and enter. Make sure they end with that semicolon or colon, whichever one that is. So what we're saying here, when you paste this in, you don't have to do any of this, just paste it in to your code editor, is it's saying for the sampler, it's got this constant variable, sampler1, this is a constant variable, sampler1 equals whatever sampler, you know, this is. So it's going to get the child synth called sampler1. Hey, look, ours is named sampler1. Don't change the name. Combo box, presets CB. That's combo box, presets CB. Now, we called ours PRSTCB. We could change the name of it to match this is probably what I would recommend, since I did not have that exactly right. You can name it whatever you want as long as the names are the same. So clicking over here, I'm going to just click the edit pencil, click on that box and make sure that this PRSTCB, we're going to change that to presets and make sure you have the capitals and stuff the same. So capital P, presets, CB. That's the name of it. That's the name it's going to. Also, remember, you always have to press enter. Presets underscore CB will change the name of it. Now it knows it'll look for presets CB right here. It'll also look for sampler1. This is going to look for your sample maps right here. Sample maps array, constant variable sample maps, get sample maps list. Okay, it should work out of the bat because our sample maps list is this one right here. It should work. If not, I'll show you how to make that work. So what I'm going to do, it's going to look for items, which is this list here. You can see it says items. That should work. So what I'm going to do now is come down here and press compile. And now it says it compiled okay right here. I'm going to slide this over so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to click on the edit pencil and we're going to play ice chimes. And then we're going to click on this to drop down and go to weird flute. And it works. Thank you very much. So I'm going to put that code in the description, just copy and paste it exactly as it is. Make sure that your presets, this preset CB, that's your combo box, that name is the same when you click on it right here. The ID, this one's okay to change, but the ID has to be the same as what's in your code. And make sure that your sampler name is the same name as this. You could call it Joe Jim Bob for all I care, as long as this right here also says Joe Jim Bob. Okay, cool. Moving on. Now we can go on to make 100 different samples. First of all, let's take a look at what our plugin looks like at this point. Right up here in that little house, we're going to click it. This is what our plugin would look like. That's it. So that's all we got. The switch to this one. We've got that. That's it. But we want this much, much cooler. Well, I say let's, for the heck of it, put our drop down here sort of toward the top. First thing we're going to need is a way to turn this up and down. So I say, let's make a knob for that. So right over here, we're going to right click. We're going to say add new slider. Now I know it's a knob and this says slider, but a slider is how it's referred, whether it's a knob or whatever. So we're going to click on that and this little knob here will pop up. Now we have the knob with the control here to turn, and it won't turn right now. We've got the text for it right here and the amount of whatever in whatever increments that you're going to use to have this turn up and down. Now over here, just remember, in our component list, we have the presets CB, that was the drop down combo box. We have knob. Remember, it's below, so it's in front. If we were to move this over, it would be in front of the other one. Just remember about that layering order. But this knob, we need it to do something. So let's first of all name it. We're going to call this vol. We'll just highlight it, and if it won't, just get it highlighted there. Press backspace, and then we're going to go VOL underscore KNB, all in caps. That is going to be our volume knob right here. Now the text, if you don't want it to be vol KNB, you can change that to volume. And that's what will show on your knob here. Now to see it go up and down, just click this pencil again to edit or to get out of edit mode. And now you can turn it up and down and the little numbers will follow from 0 to 1, okay? We're going to click on that again, go ahead and click to the knob. And now we need to tell it what it's going to control. Right now, if we go back to our sampler here, you can see that we want it to control this right here. This is the volume slider here. It goes from negative 100 decibels to 0 decibels. So we want our knob to go from negative 100 to 0. So we'll scroll down here and you can see this goes from 0 to 1. Well, if we went from 0 to 100, we actually want the minimum to be negative 100 and the maximum to be 0. And you want to click enter after every time you change this. Highlight, backspace, change it, enter. This mode here also, we want this to be in decibels, like so. Right now it's in a knob format. That's fine. I'll tell you about this later. You can do vertical, horizontal, and so forth. And the step size, this is pretty important. I'm going to leave this one at 0.01. This like goes in like by the hundredths. You can do it by steps of one, and so forth. And that is also dependent on these other numbers. It gets a little confusing. Look up other tutorials to really dig into some of that, but I'll show you more with that within this tutorial. Don't worry, tutorial. The middle position is going to be, it could be negative 50. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the middle position, backspace it, and just press enter. And it'll automatically figure that out because sometimes it's not right in the center, depending upon what it is. So this right here, don't worry about this. When we're going to change our artwork, we'll worry about stuff like strips and all of this. But for now, this should be okay. I'm going to go into out of edit mode here. And I'm going to move this slider, and we need to make sure that it's working with this guy, but it's not. And I'll tell you why. It's not linked to the sampler yet. But we can see it going from 0 to -100 just like it should. So back in edit mode, click your pencil. Now we're going to go here and figure out what it's going to be controlling. So if you scroll to the top again, we're going to scroll down here until, not linked to, we're going to scroll down until it says processor ID. This is the one, this is the unit it's controlling. Right now, this processor is called Sampler1 without a space. So we're going to go over here to processor ID, drop down. Right here is Sampler1, click it. What are we controlling on Sampler1? That's the gain. So right under here on parameter ID, we'll click that down and go ahead down to gain. So now this will control the gain of processor 1, which is sampler 1. So if we go back out of here, out of edit mode, and now we turn this, you'll see it's going to do something. But what's happening is it's going -100 and sticking there, and it just automatically snapped to it. And I'll show you why. Back into edit mode, back clicking on our volume slider. We're going to come down here to where we set this up. It does not want to do this, and we can do this in kind of a percentage way. Basically, if we go here to 0 now, enter, and go to 1 now, you'll see the difference of what's happening here. We're still in decibels though. And this middle position, I'm going to backspace all the way and press enter. Now we have a 0.5. This is kind of like fully off. This is fully on. Think of it that way. Let's check and see if that works. We're just going to click off the pencil and we're going to turn this up now, and you can see a bigger difference in the way that responds. It's weird though, because halfway up we got a -6 dB, and then all of a sudden whew, it jumps down. So this isn't correct, but you can understand that these numbers and settings make a huge difference to how this works. So the minimum over here, we've got, this says -100, and this says 0, from -100 to 0. What I like to do for these, instead of decibels on this volume, we could go to normalized percentage, and this will be from 0% to full percent or percentage. We could try this. So let's just click off and click on this guy again, making sure that this is, set correctly. Test it out again and see, does this work better? Now you're going to get this drop, -40 to 0, and then the rest of it seems smooth. Some of this matters, some of it doesn't. I'll play and show you how it works. You'll probably never hear the difference between -100 and -40. So generally, this is where I like to put some of my, if it's a standard volume slider. It's a little bit of a mystery to me why and how this works exactly the way it does, but there are other tutorials that exist. Perhaps Dave Healy, you check out his tutorials. Maybe he'll come on here and tell me, well, this is what you're doing wrong, dude. And I've talked to him multiple times, and I would greatly appreciate some of that stuff, because there's not a lot of tutorials on here that explain the intricacies of everything about HISE. You can get into the forums. People are generally really helpful, but a lot of time, because there's a lot of people asking a lot of questions, not everybody has all the time in the world to ask every one of my questions right when I need it, which is understandable. So I still remain a little confused here and there, but that is kind of what I would do in this particular case. But now you have a control that controls the volume of your sampler. So then we could change the name or the setting, the patch here, and doesn't seem to be working again. No idea what happened. Let's press our compile button. Remember, I told you it's kind of like a panic button. It reprocesses everything, and now it works. So sometimes it's best to just run your, compile your code again if it's not working. And sometimes it's just because it needs to be recompiled because of a change you've made. So there we go. There's our plugin. If we click here, this is what it's going to look like. We have a volume knob and a drop down for changing our sound. All right, so next thing, before we get into anything cool like effects, we need to add some type of shaper for the sound. Because right now, it's just a sound. Let's go ahead into our gain modulation here. And you're going to see right under gain modulation, if you click on these headings instead of the pluses, you'll get this unit brought up. It works the same way. I mean, this is the basic gain, your attack time. How long it takes for that attack and how long it takes for your, and this is what I was talking about, your release. When you let go of your key and that release time kicks in, that is what this is. So we go over to weird flute. But generally I'll leave these kind of alone here because we're going to control those with a different envelope. You can add it right here with gain modulation by clicking on this plus sign and coming down to envelopes and over here to AHDSR. This is your attack, hold, decay, sustain, and release envelope. If we click, you'll see we get another unit pop up here. And then we can click on that unit and see everything associated with it. So this is our attack time. You can see that graph responds to this, what we're doing here. The hold, you won't see that until we were lower down on sustain. You can see how long that's held, the delay or decay time, and then the release time, how long that trails out once you let go. So these things are really cool, but it'd be nice if we could actually have knobs for those so the person using this instrument can have control of these. And it doesn't look like this basic thing, can look like whatever you want it to. This is basically, kind of think about this like an engine that's run behind the scenes. And we're going to pull from it the controls to use that particular unit. So we need some knobs. So back in edit mode here, we're going to right click and add a new slider. This one, and it can be any size, anything you want. We're going to change them anyway. But this guy, I'm just going to pull down to about right here. I'm just going to align it with this grid a little better. Remember, this is a knob. So we're going to go here and say ATT underscore KNB. So this is our attack knob. And that way we get that over here on our listing. We know that exactly what that is by looking at it. Click on that knob. This can be highlighted and called attack. Okay, that way we know, let's try to spell it right, that is the attack. And what we need to do now is scroll down and go to our processor ID. This processor is not sampler one. This one is called AHDSR envelope one. So we're going to just come down here to this drop down, open it up, make sure you click on AHDSR envelope one. And the parameter ID is going to be what? The attack time. So we're going to drop down until we see attack. There it is. So let's test this out. When we turn this knob, this one goes, that you see, it's kind of strange, in from 0 to 20,000 milliseconds. This one does not. And when we move it, you can see things are doing something really weird. We have to fix that. So let's go back, click our knob, come over here and scroll down. Remember where our controls are for the knob. And we need to type in, this goes from 0 to 20,000. So right over here, 0 to 20,000. Click enter. Remember to come down here and make sure that the middle position is back. You you backspace and then click enter, and it'll give you the middle position for those. Step size I think is okay, but let's test it out by going out of edit mode and moving this around and see what happens. It somewhat works. It's being a little weird toward the beginning there. So I think step size might be our problem. I'm going to go to 0.01, check it now, and it seems that works a bit better, but between 0 and 80, it just popping like crazy. Not a fan of that, but because that's where your attack time is really important, in my opinion. I'm going to try the step size again to 1. It's probably not going to be right either. Nope, that seems completely wrong as well. If all else fails, hit compile, see if that helps. We're still getting that sharp drop in the beginning. So I'm going to go back into edit mode, back into our attack. Just come down here to see. This is unlinear is the problem. So if we come down here, the time, we need to come down here to time. This, because it's in milliseconds, and we change this back to 0.001, and we hit compile, should give us the proper movement now that we're looking for, I hope. So back into out of edit mode here. We're just going to check. I'm still seeing this being off because you can see this says 400 to 20,000 right about there. Why would it say be so off when, I mean, that's 960, 960, but that 960 over here, you know, looks halfway up, and this one no way does. So this is something else that always eludes me. It is probably something having to do with the middle position. I'm going to test this again with the 0.01 and then check it now, but I don't think that's going to make any difference. Yeah, see that middle position must be off. So the way we're going to figure that out is change our middle position. Instead of between here and here, I'm going to change this down to, let's try to 300, just for the heck of it. And then we'll compile, and then we'll check it like so. And that is definitely better because we're going now from 0 to 1, which that's going to go 0 to 1. And it's a much closer. I don't like that pop, though. You can see the envelope over here doing a sharp little pop there at the end. I don't care for that, but it's way better than it was. So let's try later on. Now, another way we can quickly move on here, and I'm not going to worry about hold time right now. We're just going to do an ADSR. Hold is can be used for some things. A lot of people do not worry about it. That's why we have ADSRs. So I'm just going to take this guy, and you can Control D and make a brand new one right next to this. And this one now is not going to be attack. We're going to change the name of it. This is going to be decay. So we can write decay if we want to, or I'm just going to put decay. It's a little easier to see. We have the decay knob here up there now. This is decay knob. You can take off that 1. Okay. So on the decay knob, you can either click the knob or over here in your list, and we can change the name of it as well, which you will want to. Attack decay. We're going to come down now. It's part of the ADHSR envelope, but we're going to change it from attack to decay, as you would expect. Now, decay is working in milliseconds, so we should not have to change this because it is also worrying about time. So when we go here and check again, seems okay. Down from 1 to there. It should be going to 0, but that's all right. Like I said, all that can be worked out with your numbers over here. I'm not exactly sure why it's got any problems at all, but that's something for Dave Healy or Christopher Hart to explain, I hope. All right, so next thing, we're going to use the sustain. Now, this is done in decibels. So we're going to, once again, Control D, duplicate that, and move it over. And everything's going to be the same, except for this is going to be sustain. So we're going to change the name to SUS, and we can get rid of the 1. Press Enter. So now we have attack, decay, and decay. That's why we have to change the name of this one as well. sustain, enter. And within here, we need to make sure we come down and change the parameter ID to sustain. Now, this one is going to be in dB, decibels, not in time. So we need to select this and go to decibel. We need to make sure of what the highs and lows of this guy are. So right now it is negative 100 with a whole lot of zeros after, and the high is 0. I don't know why I have so many decimals after the 0 or the 100, but let's go ahead and go from here to 0 to 100. I'm sorry, to negative 100, as you can see here, to 0. This might require the 0 to 1, but there we go. Back up, and there we go, and 0. And then decibels and knob, and the step size we've got here, I'm going to leave it, but I'm going to back this up and press enter for our middle position, let it decide. And now we can compile, and we can turn off edit mode and check this, that it goes to 0, which it does, and comes all the way around. That is not horrible. I mean, it's odd where the middle placement is on that, but I think I can live with it. I don't care, though, for the fact that it goes boop real quick toward that end. That is something I'm not enjoying. So let's try and figure out why. So right here, it's saying that's what our middle point is. The step size is this. Let's try the step size being 0.01. Enter that, compile that, and check again from edit mode to the real mode. And we've still got a little bit of that happening. It snaps right in there at the end, which I don't care for. I'd rather that be much tighter toward the bottom than the top like that. But you get the idea. There are ways around this. I will need to figure out how and why on a lot of stuff like that. But that is the basics. Okay, so let's go now to release time. We're going to just copy this guy again. So Control D, move it over, line it up to be relatively the same spot. And now we're going to change this to release, which is REL. Release knob. You can get rid of the 1. Enter. Check, click it again. And then here we need release. Yeah, the setups for the knobs and stuff, as far as their, timing and so forth, is pretty mysterious. I wish there was just a chart for everything. Set this for this purpose. Set this way for this purpose. That would be really handy, for especially for new people. So in the release time, it's got to go from 0 to 20,000. So here we're going to go here from 0, enter. Max is going to be 20,000. Enter. The mid, remember, just highlight it, back up, and press enter, and it'll figure it out. The step size, I'm just going to leave. And we need to make sure that also on this release, that our processor ID is set to the envelope, but it is going to be for release. So now we can press compile, and we can check the edit here and make sure that this does what it's supposed to do. I mean, for the most part, it looks good. It's not, it's still a little snappy in the beginning. I have to figure out why that happens. But it does work. It's just not the optimal way of doing that, in my opinion. Now, something else, you guys are probably wondering, well, how do I get something like this on the screen? Well, let me show you. Let me show you something. So what we want to do, and by the way, your attack curve and decay curve, these are kind of like your primary settings, I guess you could say, for how the rest of these function. So these are kind of set if you want behind the scenes. This controls the curve of the decay when you have, like, say, the decay. Let me pull this down. The decay does what it does, but when you can set the curve, I guess, when this happens or how that happens. So behind the scenes, and the decay of the attack curve the same way, and so forth, and where the level of the attacks starts. I usually just have it all the way up and so forth. But watch this. If we want a readout like this for these guys, right over here, you can right click on your interface again and add what's called a floating tile. Now, floating tile can have a whole lot of different things inside of it. We're going to put our AHD or our ADSR envelope inside of it. Now, this seems like coding, but it's not. Right here, we click on it. All this comes up. We can click the size, how big, the placement of it right here, how wide you want it, things like that. Just make it like that wide. That high is fine. And you can change all the colors for everything that's going to be in it too. Like if you had the brown and the light and the white and so forth, you can change all those colors here. What we're going to do is on content type, we're going to put what we want inside of it. So we're going to come up here and say AHDSR graph. And right now, nothing's going to be in there. We have to tell it what processor ID. Now, we don't have a drop down like we do in the others. I don't know why. This is the way they made it. But you have to put it in a little code box here. And this is super easy because right between these quotes, we're going to come over here. We're going to get our name. I just clicked on it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to come over here. And right between those quotes, I'm going to put Control V to paste it. And then you have to click apply. And it will tell it use the HDSR envelopes, little readout here, to fill this box. And there we go. Now when we move our stuff, it corresponds the way we would expect and works perfectly. So there you go. And now we can change if we want our attack to be harder or to fade in more. You get the idea. Let's change a couple of these knobs. Now, this is not using your own custom artwork yet. This is going to be using what is already in HISE here that you can choose as like a setting. All right, so if you look, we click on the slider here, and over here, if we scroll down, you can see Style knob. What we want to do is, let's just take this out, drop this down, and then we'll see vertical here. If we click on it now, we can change its size, everything we want to about it. And now we can use this if we wanted to as our new knob. If you check this out now, when I make it go up and down, this could be our new fader essentially for our or our ADSR, if you like. So this is another way that we can manage this. So let's go ahead and make all of these like so. This one though, you can click on in edit mode the button here, the knob, and you can see that it's 60 by 180. I'm sorry, that it's 20 by 150. So if we click on this guy and we change its style to vertical, and we change its size now to 20 by 150, we now have a second one exactly like the first. You sit it right here. And we just do the same thing with the next couple of these. Vertical, 20 by 150. And I'll move that one over. A couple boxes in between. Same thing here. And 20 by 150. Now, something happened here. Make sure we change the style to vertical and not knob. So there we go. That is a different way of doing this. All these colors, once again, can be changed. If I take this first guy, you can see here the background color. We'll just change that to a nice, well, let's change that to black. And then we can come down here to the front here, change that one to a red. That's going to be our outline. And then we can change the font to white, but then we can change this other guy to a nice red color. And so now you have this sort of thing going, and you get the idea here how that works. So this is a definite way of doing it. We can also get rid of these numbers if we don't like the look, which I really don't. So I'm just going to scroll down here. You can see value no, but the text pop-up is on. So we turn that off on each one of these, which to me seems like it's the same thing. I'm not sure exactly why they call these the way that they do or what they do. But let's just turn off these text boxes here, because value pop-up is what we probably should be looking for. So if I click on this first one and I say go ahead and show the value pop-up, we can do this at below. When I move this up and down, you can see that will come up and then it will fade out temporarily. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to go ahead and do that with all of these. So here we go. Show a value pop up below. Do the same thing. You can also have it, above or to the right or left. So that can be pretty handy. And then, of course, you can put ADSR here as an actual small label. What I'm going to do is take this floating window and just go to the edge and shrink this kind of down a bit. I'm actually going to take all of these guys as well, make them a little bit smaller. They're kind of over the top, in my opinion, for what they're doing here. So with this kind of made a little smaller, I'm going to move that like so and just move it up by the bottom corner. We get the same effect in a smaller footprint. You can right click here now and add a label. So this is going to be any kind of text or whatever you just want to throw on the interface. So I'm just going to move this over like so. I'm going to hold Control and zoom in and with my scroll wheel. And within here now, I want to be able to change what this label says. You do that right up here as per usual. This will be A, and it will change when you let go. I'm going to make this big enough to house the letter and put it where it needs to be. Now remember over here now we've got things called floating tile. We don't know what that does. So this we're going to change floating tile. We're going to change that to our ADSR underscore, and this will be called FLT. We know it's a floating tile. And then this label, we're going to say at ATT underscore LBL. So I know that's the attack label. So everything that's a floating tile is FLT, everything that's a label is LBL, and so on. K and B for knobs. And so now we're going to Control D and move this letter over and obviously change this to D. And we're going to call this DEC label. Caps or whatever don't matter as long as you know what you're doing. Duplicate or Control D that again. And this will be S. And this will be SUS label. Enter. Make sure you press enter. And then this will be duplicated, Control D, and this will be R. And this will be REL label. So you know it's release. And make sure you press enter. So it'll take it. Now I've got all of our labels here. So if you had a knob here and you didn't want this label on it to affect it, or you wanted the label behind it or whatever, you would change the order of these things. Because remember, this is the top. This is what's underneath. Just have to remember that this whole time. This will come into play when you start using things like panels. Let's change this guy, the color of it as well. And let's just see what we're changing colors of. Let's change that to a red as well. Let's check and see what this color is. That would be the inside of the that whole case. And I believe that's the bottom of that inside because it's got a fade on it. So let's change that to, I don't know, white, black, something. Let's change it to white because I just want to see what's what. This background color, of course, is going to have its, turned up. So if we want to change anything in here, like to be a different color overall or what have you, we will now start to see what those things are and can be. Let's go ahead and turn up that alpha there. We can turn the alpha up of this dude if we wanted to. You get start to see what these things affect. The green would be like, I think, the outline of the entire unit, I believe. If we didn't have that alpha up, that is. Let's see. So there are tons of different parameters here. We have text color. We don't have any text on that, but you get the idea. World's ugliest ADSR, though. Let's now add what's called a panel. So let's just say there's a couple different sections to this. There's our volume, there's our drop down, and let's say we need something kind of contain this guy to move it around, but also just make it look pretty. We can right click and create, right here it says add new panel. Now this panel by default, you see it's putting it on the top. So if we were to spread this out and move it around, it's going to be above on top of everything. We want it behind. So how we would do that was just take it and drag it right to the top. And you can see something else. This little circle that appears right here, it means it's inside of it. Right here, it means it's outside of it. You see where the circle movement changes there? That means it's outside of that. So it's not parented to it. So right now we have this panel parented inside the root, but nothing is parented to it. If we wanted to, we can take this panel now and move it behind everything, size it and everything to look nice. When you click off of it, you can see it's got a nice kind of vibe there. But if we want to parent everything in here to that panel to where we move the panel around, we can do that. So we just come over here and grab all of these labels, the knobs that we just made, except for the volume knob and the presets. I'm just going to grab this and move it up where the panel is, but make sure that the little circle is you saw it switches from the outside corner to the inside. You want it to be on that inside. And now everything here is parented to that panel. We can even open and close that group now. If we were to grab the panel and move the panel, everything grouped to it moves with it as well. So that's really handy for organizing and moving your stuff around. So right now we have a volume, we have an ADSR for our instrument. And of course, when we're in outside of edit mode, we can actually use this. Big fade in. Not really sure why our release isn't working as expected, but so I'd like that to come off there, but that's for a rainy day. All right, so we have that panel. Now panels get labeled a different way as well. We can say ADSR underscore PNL. So now we know that's the panel for the ADSR right there. All right, so to continue shaping with the note, what we could add now in our effects is a filter. So if we come up here to click on effects and choose filter, when we bring up our filter here, you can hear when I play, by changing the frequency, we can modulate that over time, but we can also make it to where it modulates every time we hit a key to help change the sound of the note we're playing. Let's go ahead under that and add a frequency modulation. Voice start. Let's just use a standard, simple envelope that will happen every time. You hear how it changes the sound a lot, especially if we change the frequency. And if we change the type of filter it is, makes a huge difference. So let's just use a low pass filter. So now we have a filter we can engage when we want to, how much of it we want to, and it can change that sound at any time. But of course, we need controls for it. So let's go back to our filter and figure out what we need to add to our interface. So we're going to need a frequency, a Q, because this tells how much of the spread out, but probably just the frequency is all we'll need for our filter. And of course, a knob for turning our filter on and off. And I say the attack time also. So let's have a filter knob, a frequency, a switch that turns our filter on and off, and the attack time for that. So let's go ahead and make a few things. So for one, we're going to make a switch. So we're going to go right click and click an add new button. This will be our basic button. And I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. And let's just move it over and down because we're going to put a background or a panel around this shortly. So button, this will get filter, filter underscore btn. Okay, and now we know it's the filter button, but we're going to name it filter. So it's just a little button that says filter on it. We have to come down and make sure that its processor ID, of course, is going to be the on and off of our actual filter, which is called filter 1. So we're going to come and find filter 1, and this is going to be called enabled. That's the switch. That just needs the on and off, so we don't need to worry about anything else for it. Next, we're going to make a knob or a slider for the actual frequency. So we need to make a new slider. And we can make this smaller by just dragging this up here. That's another way to do it. We're going to go here and call this filt freak underscore KNB. Now we know that's the filter frequency knob. We can scroll down and make sure we turn off the text box so none of those numbers pop up and get in the way, or at least shouldn't. I'm going to just scoot this over until we can't see any of that at all because we're going to add our own label. In fact, we can make this even smaller if we want to. And we need to make sure that that guy is added and controlling the filter 1. But this is going to be controlling the frequency. And we need to make sure that when we scroll down, we're going to click on what this is. Now, this frequency can go everywhere from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So we're going to go 20 to 20,000. This is going to be frequency. It's going to be a knob. And the middle position, I'm going to backspace and enter and let it figure out its own. You can see that that's just so much faster. So let's go ahead and test this. I don't really like where that middle position is sitting on that, but let's see if we can change that to be more like 5,000. Let's see if we can make that more like 15,000. I don't know if that'll be better or not. I don't really care for the way this works. That is my own personal preference. Why these are not aligned ever, I really don't understand. Perhaps it is got to do with step size or something, but it's pretty annoying to not have that kind of like ganged together, in my opinion, because that really should move the same. Like, why is this knob not moving, the same point direction, everything as the other? I really don't know. It really should be. It just should be by default, in my opinion. So by having this, set at even 1,000, I don't think that really seems to make much of a difference to it. If I change this to 100, even compiling, it's better. And that will kind of help adjust that. Compiling is very important when you do this, though. But like I said, it still loses me because I don't know exactly where that middle position really needs to be. I go with 300, recompile again. That's probably what my problem has been the whole time. But you can kind of get that closer. To get it exactly what it's supposed to be and make it reflect over here is very difficult. But you can see the way this is set up, it does this automatic, and you can set where that happens. Very handy. And I mean, you could let them change this out, but honestly, the low pass is the best, most expressive sounding. So I just would choose that before a lot of other things. Also, with that now, we also need a setting here, another knob. So we have that envelope, the filter, but at the envelope here, I think the attack time would be great to have on here for our filter. So we're going to, we could just duplicate this knob if we wanted. Put this one next to that one. And then here, change the names. So filter, this is going to be the simple envelope for that. So I'm going to put filter attack. So knob. Okay. And then enter. And with that filter attack knob, we can leave that like that. It's fine. Just make sure that this picks not the filter, but picks the simple envelope here for the filter. We can even change the number of that. And this is going to be for the attack. And that way those will coincide. Now what we could do is, of course, add our labels. We would need a label for the filter. And that's going to be specifically for the frequency. So really easily just right click, add label, change this to filt freak filter frequency underscore LBL. And this will of course be written as FREQ freak Super freak, in fact. And we'll put that right here. Even stretch it out just a little more. It's fine. If we want to get that right in the center, just give it another thingy. But you see how this label is over this knob now. I always try to put the labels behind the controls, outside of that panel, because we do not want anything in that panel that's not part of that panel. So this one, this label will be this panel. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate this one now. And I'm going to put it here. And we're going to call this one, let's just call it filter frequency attack. Label. And then that one will say ATT. And now we know what those are. This one obviously needs to go back up to be with this other label. This is our filter section here. Very, very simple stuff. And if we want, this is a good place to show you how to kind of make a smaller interface. Over in this code editor, remember we had 600 by 600, means it's 600 this way and 600 by this way. But the first number, I believe, is the width. So let's go ahead and 1920 by 1080. Let's go ahead and actually change the second number to about 400. And we're going to definitely have to click compile for this. And it'll change our size of our actual plugin. You just coded something. Cool. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and take our filter section. Let's put it maybe up over here. Maybe we'll just save this space for the name of our plugin. In that regard, let's go ahead and make another panel. I'm just going to say add new panel, just like we did before. I'm going to put it over here, stretch this out and down and around to be around this piece. We're going to take that panel and we're going to move it, up, not inside like that, but outside to where it's its own panel. This is going to be called the filter panel. So I'm going to say filter underscore PNL. Okay, there's our filter panel. And with that panel, and that's fine because it doesn't really need a label. All right, so we're going to take the filter panel. We're going to take the labels. We're going to pull those up and put those inside the filter panel. And then we're going to take the filter and the other knobs and pull those inside of that filter panel as well, making sure that we can take our labels still and put those inside the filter panel, but behind the controls. So there we go. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. We click on a little house up here. This is our plugin, so we can turn it up and down. Can change we need to recompile, of course. We can change all of our ADSR settings for it. Still got to figure out why that release isn't working the way it should. You can turn on or off the filter. Very cool, guys. Okay, so the volume's a little loud. You can always tell by just looking at this readout up here at the right. Cool. All right, so let's take now and add another panel just to the back of everything. I'm going to right click, add new panel. This one's going to go completely in the back. So we're going to grab it all the way to the very, very top above everything. That panel we're going to call BG underscore PNL, background panel. It's behind everything. So I'm just going to take it and move it up, kind of somewhere here. Make it as big as however we want the final, let's say, the final plugin to be. We can go even all the way up like so, all the way over like so. Something like that is fine. We'll put up a name maybe here. So if we add a new label or even an image, for our plugin, I'll just see if I have one, but we can, for the most part, for right now, just kind of do this kind of thing. You can come down with if you already have a logo, and just come down here over in your properties and click open, and open up any image that you want to use. Once you have that in there, there you go. And you can readjust everything. We could add more effects, whatever you guys want to do. Let's go ahead and make the interface just a little bit smaller. Let's go ahead and try 300 on this. It might be too small. Whoops. Don't do 30,000. Compile. It's a little small, so let's go 350 to start with here. Back up. Compile again. And let's go to 325. I'm just trying to zero in that final edge. 330 till we get it trial and error. 340. Let's try that. Not bad. So you get the idea. And now we can test out the look of the final plugin, which is horrible, but you get the idea. It would be something like so. You could add even another panel just to break this up a little more. Put it behind this group of items here. Take your ADSR and move that over. Take our filter on its own panel, of course, move it over. That way things look a little better. You get the idea. So many things that can be done. Let's just add an effect here. So with a plus symbol, we come down here and just add, for starters, a simple reverb. Now we're going to need all the knobs that we would need for a reverb. So I'm going to come down here to simple reverb, bring up the unit and have a look at it. We have a wet level, we have damping, width, and room size. I think those are perfect. We'll obviously need 4 knobs for that, and probably a button to turn it on and off. So we could kind of follow this same routine here, or make our own setup here. I think I'm going to go ahead and do a panel for it to start with, just to kind of stick with our little theme. There we go. This is going to be called, and you can lock these too. That particular panel here for the background, let's, well, I think you can lock them anyway. Locked right here. We can turn this on. That way, if we click on anything else, we won't accidentally click on the background. So with this guy, let's go ahead and call it our reverb underscore PNL. We can leave that. And now we can start adding some of our stuff to it. We don't know how large this is going to be. Now, if we want, we could copy and paste this. I don't want to confuse you guys. Also, I want to make sure that these panels are pushed to the back. So in front of the back panel though, and this one we didn't even name it. Let's go ahead and name this one to vol underscore PNL. So we know what that is. We can, of course, always lock it as well. Make sure it doesn't move around. Any of these, but we'll just leave those for now. And I want to make sure that these are, you know, put in a good spot. So let's move this one also up here, the reverb panel, and start adding stuff to it. So I'm just going to copy. So I'm just going to duplicate this knob, pop it over here. You see that it disappeared. That's because it's inside this one. We don't want that there. We want to go ahead and bring it out front because it's not part of that panel. And this one we're going to call wet level. And this, of course, is going to be a knob. And this is going to be wet, is what we're going to call it. Wet, enter. Wet means, a lot of reverb, or how much reverb, how much wetness of that. And we're going to say plug in processor ID. Instead of filter 1, we want simple reverb. And we're going to come down here to wet level. Very simple. Now we need to figure out, this was a normalized percentage. You can see it goes from 0 to 100. It's the easiest type of knob to set up. So minimum, we're going to go to 0. Max, we're going to go to, I think 1 on this. This is going to be normalized percentage. And we're going to go here, middle position. We're just going to back up and enter 0.5. Normalized percentage. This should work right out of the box. And we're going to test that real quick. Make sure that wet level goes all the way down, all the way up, 0 to 100. I don't know why all knobs don't go 0 to 100. I realize sometimes they're broken up and weirdness, but you could change the middle for that and have no problem with it any other way, I don't think. So that's good. There's our reverb wetness level. I am going to go back into edit mode. I'm going to duplicate this label, move it over here. We also need to move it off of that panel. So we're just going to put it here behind. Ooh, where did I stick that? There we go. We're going to change the name of it. So we're going to go wet label. 1. I guess I should probably put the W there too. Enter to change, to make sure that takes. And then we change the name. Need to change the name to wet as well. This is this particular let me open this guy up. If you ever get stuck, these little triangles open up. So that panel is fine where it's at. We need to look at its size in a second, but this is the wet label, the knob and the label. So the knob, that's fine. We've got it set up to where everything works. So what I'm going to do is Control D to make a new, Control D to make a new, Control D and to do another. I'm going to take the backing plate and do this because we're going to put the on off up here. And I just want to keep this nice and clean. So I'm going to grab this button. We're going to duplicate it, move it over. This one's going to be called, just rename it, reverb. Reverb. And seems to have gone behind. So we need to pull that out and in front. This one is going to be reverb button. We can change that 1 back to whatever we want. And we're going to call this reverb. Okay, cool. So now our reverb can go off and on. It has these controls. We need to set them up. So we have wet. We have, let's duplicate that one. They all sound like they belong in a pool. So wet, we have damp, change the name and change the actual prop or the ID name. So we know which one this is. We also want to make sure that those aren't, inside of anything. I'm going to also put this behind the knobs to where they don't interfere. We're going to duplicate that one as well. This one is going to be width. So width. And this one is also going to be called width. And then we're going to duplicate it as well. And then now this particular is going to be our size. So I'm just going to call it SIZE, enter. And once again, change the actual name. SIZE. And now we have all of those. And just now to connect the controls. So the simple reverb is correct. That was wet level. This needs to be damp right here. So the width, simple reverb, this now needs to be width, and the size now needs to go to room size. So now our reverb is completely set up. Let's test it out. We'll close the unit up. Okay, we have a problem because our reverb button is now controlling the filter. All we have to do is select that button and come down here and say, nope, not filter. We want it to enable the simple reverb, period. So we go and back here and let's compile to be safe. And we'll check this with route reverb, with filter, and now with reverb. And we can change the wetness of it, the width, the size. I think what I'm going to do is come in here into our volume of our sampler. I'm going to turn the volume of the sampler down by default because this is going a bit too high overall. So I'm going to go into the volume knob of the sampler, scroll down here, and we've got this 0 to 1. I'm thinking we're going to change this over to 0 to 0.8. Let's just try it there. We will compile that to make sure it is taking it and see if it'll only let me go up that much. That's what we're looking for. So and that's true, but it is still too loud. So we want it to hit about maybe there. So let's try that again. It's a little trick you can use. Let's just go to like maybe 0.7 on this guy. And we'll keep testing that until, it works. Let's just make sure of. Okay, so we want to come down quite a lot. So let's go ahead and try this again. This is where these knobs get really funky and I just don't like it. So let's just take this up to 0.4. 0.4. And then now we'll recompile and see what happens. So this is saying that at 100%, we're only at 8. So we can peak out. So the reverb and the filter can cause a little bit of peaking. And there are things we can do about that too. Cool. So, I mean, you guys get the idea. This isn't a completely complete plugin just yet, per se, but it is definitely getting there. I mean, it's just a matter of adding different effects and things. All right, so I'm going to move some stuff around. I'm going to make sure that all of the things here for the reverb are parented to this reverb panel. And all these things are going to come up and they're going to be parented right here to the reverb panel, not outside of it, but actually to the inside of it. So now I can move that reverb panel all in one go to right here. The filter now I'm going to move down to here, and I'm going to take the ADSR, pull that right here. Let's go ahead and resize it to fit. And I'm going to grab these letters. So I'm going to move these letters down. And I'm going to go ahead and grab the bottoms of these and get those resized. So for some reason I had lost a little bit of work after doing some of this arranging, so you guys get to see it all. And I think what I'm going to do as well is unlock this upper panel right here and take it and pull it over to about here. I'm going to take this image that we had added and just make that smaller. Get that to show up completely in here. See what it's going to take to do that. One more, and we can get that guy sort of located centrally like this. That looks okay. And I think now the volume knob can come over. And what I'm going to do is go ahead, turn off. I'm going to come down here once again to this show text box and turn it off. It's not going to show up right now. And we're going to just make this a little smaller like so. This will be eventually our gain or volume knob for the entire plugin. Let's go ahead and take this reverb panel and we're going to Control D it and then click on it or click somewhere so that it takes. If you click anywhere else to try to move this around, it'll send your stuff flying off the edge. I don't know why. But we're going to go ahead and pull this over to here, put it 2 away like the other side is. I'm going to drag this out because we're going to need a little more room for the controls here. With that, now we need to add a delay unit that these controls are going to control before we switch them over. So we're going to come over here to effects, right under sampler though. This is the effects specifically for the sampler. I'm going to come down here and click on the plus and just look for the delay unit right here at the top. Once that drops down, we come down here to delay, click on it once, and it'll come up showing us all of the controls we're going to have to make or change over for the delay. So we have the left and right delay. We have the mix of everything, which is kind of our delay knob. And we have the left and right feedback that we may or may not worry about. We probably will because this is like the volume controls for each side. And then we've got our tempo sync, which allows us to make it in time with the music we're making or not. Very important. So we're going to need 2 switches and 5 controls. So that's why we have this one extra knob we can make right here by clicking on this guy, Control D, and now we have the room for it because we're just going to set it right here. And we're going to take this label and Control D it, put it right here underneath that guy. And eventually we have to move those around. But for now, let's also duplicate this switch, this toggle, to something like so. Now we have the on off for it. We will have the tempo sync for it, and then all the controls that it's going to need. So first things first, this knob here, or this switch here, needs to control the on off for the delay 1. So we're going to go ahead and change the name of that button to delay. We're going to, and we can get rid of the 1, of course. I'm just reopen that. We can get rid of the 1 on there. It's not necessary. We're going to call that delay. And we're going to come down and make sure that the processor is not simple reverb now. This one is going to be delay 1, and this is going to stay as enabled. This will turn off and on the delay 1. This reverb over here now, which was the copy of the original reverb, we're going to change its name to temp sync. So we're just going to delete that and go temp sync, or you could just use sync. It works as well, not a big deal. It's your own label that you can, that way you can know what you're doing. I'm just going to put sync here in the actual label that shows up on the button. Let's go ahead and make that a capital, just so it'll look nicer and more like everything else. And once, oh, and you do have to press enter probably. And once that shows up here, we can come down and make sure that's not the simple reverb again. It's going to be on the delay. And for the parameter ID, it's not the enabling here. We're going to come down here and look for tempo sync. And now that will work with this button here. Once again, this is a time delay. These are all done in quarters. So there is going to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's probably about 10 or something like that of these divisions here. And I'll show you how to do that for this first left delay. So this first knob is not going to be called wet. This will be L delay, or L underscore DEL underscore knob, that works, enter. And then when we click on it again, we can make sure here that we can just put left delay. We can get rid of all this knob business. Make sure the L is there, and we can get rid of that underscore because that's not necessary either. In fact, we could have just put left, right? It's not showing up here anyway. That will be the putting it in that label. But before we get ahead of ourselves, make sure that this knob is going to the delay unit, which we need to do here. So we're going to go to delay 1, and its parameter ID is going to be left, or feedback left, because that's really what that's called. So feedback left. Then we change the label here. We can change this to LDEL again for the label name. And then right here in the text, this is where we're going to see it. delay. We want to put that there. It's going to be too long though. So what I'm going to do is just put L, because we already know it's a delay. So I'm just going to put LFB actually. L space FB, which means left feedback. Cool. Same thing for all the others. So this guy is going to now be our right delay. So we just rename it and everything the same way. So right here we'll go RDEL. We don't have to put the underscore. It's just nicer looking and more consistent with our naming. So right delay knob, perfect. We don't need to see that because we're not going to actually see that. And we come down here, and the processor ID is going to be delay 1 again. And the property it's going to be is right, or feedback right. So perfect. Now, let me set up the knobs, because these are done with time. So left delay, this goes from like 1 to 1 all the way up to 164 triplets. We're going to scroll down to where those things come into play here. And we're going to pick tempo sync, I believe, or is this, I think this was time. And instead of 0 to 2000, how do I do this? Okay, so I'm going to leave step size at 1. This probably needs to go to 0 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's go to 1 to or 0 to 20, maybe even 1 to 20. And let's just backspace this and enter it and see if this works for us. It's going to be in milliseconds. I got to test to make sure how this is going to work. So with that said and the compile button pressed, I'm going to just start moving this up and see that it matches. Right now it does not. So the left delay, right now we're getting left feedback. That's not what we want. We want the left delay. So my bad. Let's go back into its parameter ID delay. That's feedback left. We want delay left. Here we go. Delay time left. Whew, my bad. So this label also is wrong, and that needs to be delay time. So left, I'm going to put DEL, and this will be L DEL. Okay, that'll be the label. Press enter. I'm going to double check this again, make sure all is right. The knob now, though, left delay, knob, left delay, delay time left. Now we get down here to where we are again. I had 0 to 20. Let's find out if that is correct. I'm going to go ahead and recompile because we had it wrong before. And now as I go up, I need to make sure that this is corresponding. So it looks like it's going just fine. So 0 to 64 T, or 1 to 64 T. So that is exactly what we want. Easier way to work this out is to, let's say, delete this label, duplicate this label, and then just change this, left and right situation. So this will speed things up. I do this a lot. I hope I'm not confusing anybody here. I realize I jumped back and forth there for a minute. All right, so I have to press enter on these. So right and pow, we've got right delay now on both the label and on the text part. And we're going to come back down here to that knob, make sure that that is the same, which it is. We're going to make sure when we come down here, once again, that this is going to be for our processor, delay 1, right here in the middle. It's going to be delay time right, not feedback. And we're going to come down here. Normalized percentage should still work. I'm just going to stick with it to where it is and test it here. I'm going to compile and see if it just works right off the bat. We may have to change it to time, but if we do, we do. Okay, that looks like we definitely need to. So go ahead and edit that right here, that same switch here. Scroll down, and this is going to be 0 to 20 again, because there are 20 different placements in there. I'm going to go probably increments of 1. I think that works, and we'll just back this up and let it do its thing. Let's check now if you're compiling that it works. Let's see. So 1, and this seems to be working just fine. That's what we need to do for those. The width is not the width here. What we will need here is a mix knob and then a right and left feedback. So the mix I'm going to put on the end. We'll save it. This is going to be left feedback and right feedback. And these are done in percentage. So remember, these are the really easy ones. So we're just going to go here. And for the knob, I'm going to set this to feedback. So L space FB. We can get rid of the number and press enter. So that will be this one. We can scroll down here until we get to our delay unit. We can drop this down and say, please use the delay unit, and make sure that this is set to left feedback or feedback left, just like so. And when you scroll down to what it does, this is going to be a normalized percentage, 0 to 1. It's already set up. We should be good to go. So I'm going to check that, and looks like it moves 0 to 100 just fine. Then we'll change the label here to left FB. We can get rid of the number and enter. Make sure that the actual text says the same thing. This is for people who look at it. We don't need anything else other than LFB. Perfect. So we have right delay, left delay, or left delay, right delay, left feedback. And this other one will be right delay. Let's just check, make sure everything's good. Cool. And now if we want, we can delete that label. We can go ahead and duplicate this one, Control D, and push this one here and just change, again, our letters. So this will be right. So right, enter. And then we do it again here for the actual label. Right. It's a little bit confusing, but this is the faster way of doing it. And then once again, we have to change the names on the actual knob. And this one will be left feedback. Or is that, I'm sorry, that is right feedback. That's where I really get confused. And then we need right feedback. We can delete all this other stuff. Enter. Matter of fact, you can take the number off of this one. Just the same. So left and right feedback, we need to make sure that this knob now does the left delay feedback. So feedback left or feedback right. Gosh, I get so confused. So this one is left, feedback left. This one is feedback right. And they're both for the delay unit. Very important. The last thing is our mix knob, and it's an easy one because it's just a normalized percentage. So we go right in here to the knob itself, and we're going to say mix. Get rid of the number there at the end, enter. Okay, and then this one is going to be mix knob, just like that. Come down here to delay for our unit, and for what it does, mix. Very simple. Make sure this is already set up for a normalized percentage, which it is, and that is it for the reverb. Took a second, but now you guys can check out how it works. I'm going to go ahead and save. Make sure you save a lot. And then we're going to test it real quick here. So let's open the plugin interface up there at the top. That's what it's looking like so far. You can hear the delay already working. I'm going to turn the size down, which that size isn't size. That's going to be called mix. Totally forgot. I don't know why you guys didn't tell me, but we need to actually call this mix underscore LBL. It's our naming convention. And so let's check that one more time here and make sure that it actually says that in the text of it. So that should be good. Enter, and we're good. I'm going to resave. All right, so now we know what it does, and we're going to test it with everything off. And let's turn it, let's turn it all down as well. So I'm going to turn these off, turn them all down. Just this is how you would check and make sure all of these units are working. So the filter and everything is off. So I'm going to test the filter off first and with it on. Cool. The reverb off, and then and we'll turn up the wetness. Starting to get wet. And the dampening keeps it from dragging out too long. Once the size is turned up, width is going to spread it out. You can hear it in your speakers if you're listening on headphones, especially. We'll turn that off, and then the delay has nothing happening right now. But if we turn up the mix, so now we'll swap over to the HISE chimes. And now with the reverb and the filter. All right, so this is a mix between wet and dry. So I think you guys get the idea there. Cool. With that, let's save again. And now let's go ahead and put in a background. So what I'm going to do, I've already prepared a background. I won't have a link for it. I don't need it really, I don't think. Just look up a carbon fiber texture background. It's pretty easy to find. But what we're going to do is come back into edit mode, right click on an empty area, and I'm going to put add new image, select that. Within this image here, you can make this as big as you want. Something like this for now. Any empty space you have, you could do this with as well, or stick a panel there or whatever you want. But I'm going to throw in an image, and we're just going to come down here and select open. And we're going to go find the image I prepared, which is this guy here. Like I said, it's just a carbon fiber image texture. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drag it all the way up to put it behind everything. So just under that root there. Now it'll be behind everything. And I'm going to move this up into the upper corner. And this can be anything. You can prepare it in any way that you want. I'm going to drag the corner all the way down to just fill it up. And when we click off of it, this is essentially the finished plugin for now. We can put more stuff, you know, if you want two different types of filters, you want a phaser or chorus on here. It's the same process of doing exactly that. I'm going to recompile to make sure everything's good there. I'm going to resave, of course, which I recommend doing all the time. And we can take a look at our finished plugin before we export anything. Turn off the delay. So these are the volumes for the feedback. It's got a bit of a pipe organ-y sound to it. Get the idea. We can add another label if we want to here for the volume, you know, if we'd like. So that's easy enough, is going in and just adding a new label. There's a lot of other functionality, of course, programming and whatnot, but for this, it's pretty simple stuff. You know, we can just, once again, say vol underscore LBL. This is just, okay, that is not how I wanted that. This has to be an underscore. L, and we can go and delete that one and do an underscore. And there we go, volume label. And then we can take that and change this to volume, of course, with a capital V. Oops. And then we're set to go on these. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one more time. I'm going to show you guys how to export it. So when you're at a point where you're done and ready to export your plugin, you'll just come up here to export. But first things first, make sure in your settings you have this set to export a VST. So I would come down here, File, Settings, and we're just going to go with all here and just scroll down, down until it says VST3 support. Click that, because that'll let you export this out as a VST3. If you were doing an effect like a guitar distortion or a chorus pedal or anything, unit like that, then you would export that also. You have to check something, another setting in there that allows you to export as an effect plugin as opposed to a synth or a sampler. So we'll have a different tutorial for that, but let's just go File. All right, so what we're going to do is go ahead and, you remember I was telling you guys about the monolith format. We want to go back here to the sampler, and we have our sample maps right here, what we want to do is go to each one of these and click this downward arrow right here. This says convert current sample map to monolith. So we're going to click on that. We're going to say where we want this to go. It's just going to go in our regular VST folder for this. And we'll say okay. And it's going to change it into that format. We need to go to the other one, weird flute, and we're going to say the same thing, same place. We say okay. And you can see now it says monolith right here. That way we know it is a monolith format. So now we're going to export this. So we're just going to go to export. We're going to go here, making sure that this is set to an instrument VSTI because we want to use this in our DAW. So we'll click here, 64-bit. We will say OK. And it's going to open up a window. Since we've already done this once, it'll bring this up, but it's going to open a command prompt where you will see the beginning of it exporting out our plugin. And in a few minutes, this will be finished, and it'll give us a prompt at the end to press any key, and then we can go check it out in our DAW. And of course, I will skip forward on this. Compiled this once, so we're going to go check it out. All right, so in our folder, we'll find this set of folders, and we want to go to binaries. We want to go to make sure that we go to compiled. Double click right here in this VST3 folder. We will find our VST3 right here. I'm going to grab all three of these just to be safe. Copy these, or go find our VST3 folder, which is here on your C drive, program files, common files, VST3. I'm going to paste mine in. That should pop up here, and we should have no problems. But if we do, we'll figure it out. I'm going to close HISE and open up our DAW. Now, in our DAW software, this is Bitwig Studio. We're going to have to wait for our general list of plugins to populate. Then we can do a search for our plugin. All right, so this is taking a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and try to find our instrument right here. We'll see which one of these was the working one. One of these works and one of it doesn't, I believe. So here is our new instrument. Let's see if it works. And then we're going to use the change here. The delay is working. If we change our sync here and let's change our beats per minute up to see if the delay happens faster. And it does. Everything works fine. The delay, the reverb. And the filter. All right. Now, the next video will be on our custom knobs and sliders and everything visual that we would want to do with the plugin. So check that one out.